Are you ready to have a YouTube channel?
We're gonna
have a YouTube channel.
We're gonna do it. Hello, YouTube.
Hello.
Yo, I'm Randy.
I'm Lauren.
We are two people who sometimes read books and like to yell about it.
Do I ever yell? Yes.
We are loud about books. And so we thought we'd yell about it on the internet. A great place to yell. We read Book Lovers.
We love it. I mean, no, we read Book Lovers, and I have no thoughts yet.
Full disclosure, Book Lovers was not our initial plan.
It was not.
But I read Book Lovers, and then Lauren broke her book buying ban to buy Book Lovers.
Listen.
I mean, it was one of 7 books in like a week in that buying ban.
I have no self-control.
You're a
That's
woman
all I
unhinged.
have to say about that. I am a woman unhinged.
So,
and you know, like, you can't, it has a pull. Going to like a bookstore, any bookstore, there's like a ominous fog coming out of the store. And if you go in, like I've never gone into a bookstore and not bought a book.
Can't relate. I love going to the bookstore, but I like having money. And I can read books for free from the library.
Money. Welcome to our YouTube channel.
Yes.
We're excited to talk about this book today.
Yeah. All right. So, Book Lovers.
Synopsis. Why don't you take us away with a
Yeah.
synopsis about what this is about?
So, I wrote it down, so I'm gonna...
She's got beautiful notes.
Yeah, this is
true. They are. They're really nice.
Book agent Nora kind of sees herself as the villain in all these rom-coms, right? Mm-hmm. So she has this perception that, like, in all these rom-coms, there's always a guy and he goes away to small town and he meets a horse trainer and he decides that he wants to leave his materialistic girlfriend. Nora is this materialistic girlfriend back home who's very career focused. So she sees herself as kind of this role. She sees it this way because it's happened to her like 4 times, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
She like gets dumped again. Her sister Libby is like, let's go live out other tropes. Like, let's make a small town rom-com list of things you're going to do in small town rom-com land, including like go skinny dipping and save a local business and all this.
Wear a flannel.
Wear a flannel shirt. All the critical things you do when you're in a small town. Nora has kind of a long-standing dislike with an editor back in New York, Charlie Lastra. He declined a book that Nora was representing.
Yeah, because she's like an agent, right?
Yeah.
So she is representing this bigger author, Dusty.
Yeah.
And she writes these kind of like rom-com-y books, and one of them takes place in this small town that she ends up going to.
Libby sends her and Nora on this trip for like 3 weeks or something to Sunshine Falls. Gets there, Charlie lives there, and they go on the summer editing books together and hating each other and then loving each other. Shh.
Yeah.
Secret. That's pretty much the summary.
Very bookish. It's very like, if you are a person who is like in any way like aspiring to be in like the literary field, I guess, like author, editor, anything like that, I feel like this book would be like really fun for you to read. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I personally think like probably my favorite contemporary romance book now.
Yeah.
That's kind of the synopsis. And from this moment on,
spoilers
will be in this video. So if you want to read this book, if you're like, wow, that sounds so interesting, go to the bookstore immediately, close your computer, close your laptop. Don't watch this video. The whole book will be here. The fact that we have been able to go really this even long without me sending you voice messages shouting, is like really quite a thing.
Yeah, one of the things is we decided, since we're going to do this video, that we're not going to talk too much about the books before, because we'd like to capture this conversation. But then the problem is that, like, I voice message you every single detail of my life. So to not message you about a book that I know you are also reading.
Oh, really hard. Especially
hard.
because I've been liking it so much. Like, I would have loved to message you about every detail, but I was like, no, I will remain in control of myself.
Even you were here last weekend reading, and she was like sitting on the couch just like laughing to herself and then being like, I'm sorry.
Crazy person. This book is funny. Yeah.
That's exactly what you did. That was a great reenactment.
Yeah. Hey, like, if you want to be spoiled, like, live it.
That's your
to be honest,
prerogative.
like, I believe that it was so good that even if you stayed and you watched this entire video, you would probably still enjoy the book because it's excellent, and we couldn't describe it as well as I think it's written.
I think it might be my favorite kind of contemporary rom-com-y type book because Emily Henry's banter is just like unparalleled. I loved it so much.
Yeah.
I also was like laughing out loud reading this book.
Yeah, which I think is rare. Like, I feel like
Usually you might get like a with me.
no, I was definitely, there were times where I was like, yeah, catching myself like smiling really big reading it. I was like, wow, this is so enjoyable.
After Lauren impulsively bought this book and we were like, let's do a YouTube video on this book, I was like, okay, I read all my books from the library through Libby. And so I was reading it on my Kobo and I like had my Kobo and I was sitting there like going through all my annotations, literally like this. And my husband was like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
It's so joyful. I feel like
it was great.
I'm not necessarily somebody who gets like emotionally invested reading, especially not in the gushy rom-com way.
Oh,
like,
I was crying reading this book.
I
sure.
also cried
At the end.
Yeah. But like, I feel like I'll see TikToks about people who are like squealing reading their books or like kicking their feet, and that's how this book made me feel. And I don't feel that way about anything.
Yeah, usually.
I'm dead inside. So the book has 3 main characters. We have Nora Stevens. She's the main character. She's materialistic. She's cold-hearted.
She's described as the shark. So she's very like cold and like, imagine you're like blunt, blonde, like New York working girl. She's very like, driven by her job and, or that's how she's initially perceived as like, you just see her as being kind of like a workaholic.
And then we have Charlie Lastra, the love interest, who is a book editor. He's also a bit cold and standoffish, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
When you first meet him, he's like kind of rude.
He's a little bit aloof. Yeah. He's like kind of like.
He's like, you're late. She's like, geez, sorry.
Yeah. He was definitely like initially very like, I saw him as very much like a suit, you know?
Yes.
He's just like kind of a cold like douchebag.
Yeah. He kind of grows, I think, into witty, smart, perfect man.
Yeah, honestly, like top tier love interest. We really just like, I don't think he necessarily even turns into that. Like, I think he has like a little bit of a character shift, but he's like, we learn so much more about like why he is kind of closed off the way that he is. And it like, Yeah, and I think especially because he warms.
He does warm.
Yeah. I feel like we first start to see that there's this part where Nora sends him Bigfoot erotica.
Yes, right at the beginning.
It's pretty close to the beginning, and right then is where I feel this first kind of twinge of like, okay, Charlie's starting to like unravel a little bit and sort of show her a little bit more of like who he really is rather than just like work man.
Yeah.
Working man.
Work man. Man work. And then the third main character is Libby. This is Nora's sister, where Nora is the cold, workaholic, whatever. I feel like Libby has a level of manic pixie dream girl.
Totally.
She just wants to live life to the fullest. She has a million children. She is like just partying up, always trying to set Nora up on like dates in this small town, trying to get her to break out of that professional shell.
I perceive her as being very like sunshiny and optimistic.
Yeah. So there's kind of this B plot. So obviously it's a rom-com. The main plot is Nora and Charlie fall in love. But there's this B plot of Libby clearly going through something, hiding it from Nora, and Nora starts to fear that like Libby is secretly getting a divorce or something. What did you think of that?
I don't know. Initially I was like, I don't know if that's what's happening here, but I was like, I'll read it through. I think my sort of overarching feeling about that was that like we're seeing them just become really different people and who are keeping things from each other because they just like are so different, and the way they react to things is so different. So
Nora has this deep love for New York. The plot twist ends up being that Libby is actually moving to Sunshine Falls, and that's why she wanted Nora to go, so that maybe Nora would fall in love and maybe move with her. But I don't believe that Libby ever thought it was like a genuine chance.
Yeah.
I think it was like a shot in the dark. Maybe Nora would like it.
Well, and even just a way to get Nora to sort of shift her perception about that type of thing so that there would be more opportunity for her to like come and visit and stuff, because I feel like early on in the book we find out it's like, okay, Nora is very like almost clinical in the way she like approaches everything.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Including your family.
for you to move away to like a really like, you know, froofy little pigtails and you know, sunshine town.
Yeah.
Is like, would she support you in that? Would she come see you? Like, would she drop what she's doing in her life to come and like be a part of, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know that I expected Libby to necessarily be moving there, but I didn't think she was getting a divorce. I saw it as her trying to like kind of break Nora down a little bit into like being able to have those conversations in a way. Like, Nora's immediate response to all things is like, how can I fix this? Let me give you money. Let me buy you a house. Let me send you on a trip. Let me do these things for you. And I think, like Libby says in the book, like, sometimes you just have to like give me a hug and be like, this sucks. And I think this was Libby's way of breaking her down to that point.
There's, I think, like a really cool thing that I saw many years ago now, but where it's can be a really good relationship tactic, even just like in talking to your spouse, to be like, okay, like when you're telling me this thing, like, what do you need from me right now? Do you need me to help you fix it? Like, do you need me to be a problem solver, or do you need me to just like sit in it with you? Like, that was a theme that really, like, towards the end of the book, I was like, oh, I'm so glad that this book is like approaching that topic. I'm really bad at being like, let's fix it. Like, let's do that thing. Like, I want to fix this problem because I don't want there to be any problems, because life is magical.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved that.
Well, and I think like rom-coms have this like level of kind of toxicity to them often, where it's like the man will mess something up, and instead of like going and talking to the woman, he'll just be like, I'm gonna fix it with a grand gesture.
With a grand gesture,
and all this stuff.
always.
And like, sometimes I put myself in that position reading some of these books, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I think a grand gesture would actually just really make me angry. I think of so many books where the end comes and it's like something terrible has happened, they're broken up for whatever reason, and then like 3 months later, he like turns up out of nowhere in a very public way and is like, I'm sorry, will you marry me? And she's like, yes, because it's so public, and like, what are you gonna do? Be like, no. And I just...
Could you imagine? I would actually like hate that.
Anyways, I've spiraled a little bit, but I just think this book did a really good job of like, yeah, kind of exploring that, like, how do we actually solve these problems as like human people in relationships?
I think Charlie does a really, really good job in this book of just like, there's so many moments where he's just like there for her.
Yes.
And it's not offering any solutions. It's just like, hey, I've got you.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
And I think Nora does a good job of like learning that response too. Like, there's points, I think after Libby says like, I'm moving here, and she just like hugs her, and it's like, this sucks.
Yeah. I do think there was a lot of character growth in this book from both of the leads. Like, I mean, Libby is sunshine pretty much the whole time. Yeah. And like, hopefully by the end of the book, like, she as a kind of like main character, side character to the actual like main plot. Yeah. Sort of learned that she can be a little bit more open with Nora, and I think the softening of both of them, like, if I imagine their lives continuing on past the book, I'm like, oh, I hope that there's like a pathway for like a more communicative relationship. But
yeah, I think another thing that this book did really, really well is that it gave the characters character growth without changing who the characters are. Like, at the end, Nora and Charlie are still both big city people, even when they like can't be together. Oh my gosh, the scene where they're dancing, that's the scene that got me.
Breaks me. I know. Yeah. When I have such a soft spot for that. That kind of like, oh, I'm not good at goodbyes, so like, we're not gonna say goodbye, and the whole idea of just like closing your eyes and then the person is gone, and like, oh my gosh,
I was like sobbing. Both of them are trying to come up with a solution as they're dancing, and they both know that there isn't one, and like, a long distance thing isn't going to work for them.
Yeah, Charlie is initially not living in Sunshine Falls.
Yeah.
He's living back in New York doing his editing thing, but his family runs a bookstore in Sunshine Falls, and like it's seeming as though like Charlie has to stay in Sunshine Falls to run that family business.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, I mean, he's a city guy, like he doesn't want to do that, but he's like, it's my family, I have to be there for them in that way. So he ends up having to stay in Sunshine Falls, and like I feel like the sort of classic contemporary romance sort of way that this book could have ended would have been like Nora deciding to compromise and being like, let's live it. I'm gonna move to Sunshine Falls, and like all of a sudden I'm gonna be like
partner.
I'm gonna be a cattle rancher, and like she realizes the error in her ways of being a city person, and really life is like there's more important things in life, like growing beets and like living in the wild, like, and she could have really compromised herself to like move there and be with him, because it's like soulmate kind of love, right? And she doesn't, and I like really, really love that.
Yeah, I was genuinely concerned that she was going to.
Yeah.
And so I think it would have been very easy for Emily Henry to be like, Nora changes who she is entirely for love, and is now...
And I think it's beautiful the way she did it.
Yeah, I think it was so... Like, that scene is so, so heartbreaking.
They're dancing, and it's like their last...
They're dancing. I'm sobbing.
Yeah, they're dancing. Both Randy and I are crying so much. They start to dance, and she's like imagining. She's like, I let myself picture it again. Charlie in my apartment, his laptop in front of him, his face stern as he reads on my sofa. I was just like weeping. Snowflakes melting across the glass, Christmas lights wrapped around the lamp. It was like she's imagining her life with him, and I'm gonna cry again. So we need to stop. They both know that it's like not gonna happen. This is right. Like she knows the long distance is not gonna work, and so does he.
Yeah.
And so there's just a moment where she goes, Charlie, and like there's a long silence. His throat bobs as he swallows. His voice is a hoarse, growly whisper. I know, but don't say it yet. And I was like, no. Just breaks me.
Yeah.
So good. A week ago, I can't read this. I'm gonna literally cry again.
Okay.
It's like mid. Yeah, you found it.
A week ago, I say, I liked you so much, I would have wanted to try and make this work. I swallow a jagged, fist-sized lump, but still my voice has to scrape by to get out. But now I think I might love you too much for that. You don't have to say anything, I hurried to add. His jaw flexes against my temple. Of course I love you, Noah.
No!
We love a gay biblical romance.
I built an ark for you. This part where he goes, you're going to be okay, Nora. He whispers against my temple, his hands loosening. You're going to be better than okay. Just like I asked, there's no goodbye. When the song ends, he presses one last kiss against the curve of my jaw. My eyes flutter closed. When I open them, he's gone. Oh, I'm broken.
They know. They know right from the beginning. She's imagining it, and she's like grieving it as they're still together. I think it's just so beautiful, and it would have been so easy for Emily Henry to do the thing that she describes, where she's like, but yeah, I think it just does a beautiful job at like letting these characters fall in love while still being the people that they are.
Yeah.
And like nobody had to change their hopes and aspirations to the point where like they end up not together until like literally the epilogue.
So I was like, this is so nice. Like, and in a way that I didn't find cheesy. I was like, this is really, I think, well done in the sense that it's not like, 3 months later she changed her mind.
Yes.
Like he showed up because like circumstances allowed it.
Yeah.
The characters love each other so much that they don't want one another to like compromise what they want. Like he wants her to go and get the editing job, and like
so good,
so good. I really, really loved it. I've tagged like so many different things of just quotes that I thought were really like funny, and there's no organization, it's just nonsense. But like quotes that I thought were really funny and made me laugh out loud, quotes that I thought were really impactful. My favorite quote that really I think speaks on really talks on that like loving people where they're at was, maybe love shouldn't be built on a foundation of compromises, but maybe it can't exist without them either. Not the kind that forces two people into shapes they don't fit in, but the kind that loosens their grips, always leaves room to grow. Compromises that say there will be a U-shaped space in my heart, and if your shape changes, I will adapt. No matter where we go, our love will stretch out to hold us, and that makes me feel like everything will be okay.
Emily Henry is
so good.
a literary genius.
So good.
Especially for a book about tropes, does a good job at looking at tropes and flipping them a little. Every single romance book I feel like I've read in the past year, the male and the female have two characteristics. The female is so bitty, so tiny, she's so small, you can put her in your pocket, you just want to smush her. And the man is Lorg. He's so big, he's got the biggest hands, biggest arms.
You must tell me 6 or 7 times how tall he is. He's got
every single chapter.
Tall. I'm like, is he 8 feet tall? It's like a basketball player stacked on top of another basketball player stacked on top of another basketball
and the woman is the basketball. And so I really appreciate this book where it like had 0% of that. Like Charlie's kind of described as like lean. People are fan casting Logan Lerman, and I was like, really? Do we belittle Percy Jackson? And then I looked up Logan Lerman. I was like, all right, I guess my childhood crush continues. There's the scene in this book where she goes on a date with Pig Farmer. Blake.
Yeah.
She goes on a date with Blake, and Blake is like, how tall are you? And he's like, really?
I was
thinking of you.
The whole time, right?
Yeah.
I know. So I'm 6 feet tall. Like, on this date, he asked her how tall she is, like, 3 or 4 times, and honestly, like, she leaves the date.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I would do.
He was, like, at the bar, right? When she's on this terrible date, and she kind of escapes with him.
Yeah, which is amazing. And I'm like, thank goodness.
Then they make out in the rain.
I love that scene.
I loved Charlie's response to it, too, when she's like, I'm tall, and he's like, you're not that tall. And she's like, well, I'm taller than you. And he's like, I'm not that tall. And he was like, there's not, like, women who are too tall. There's just men who can't handle that.
And I was like, yes.
I have no issue against, like, big, tough man and teeny tiny woman. But, like, I feel like that's been such the thing. And, like, all the books that have, like, blown up. Like, I feel like Hating Game, Spanish Love, Deception, even to a degree, Love Hypothesis, like all of them are kind of like itty bitty little naive sweet girl,
frail girl
meet grumpy Lorg man, and that's every book. So it was just refreshing not having that.
It's just like a nice shift. I don't have really any complaints.
I don't think The Spice ever gave me the ick.
Never. No
ick words were used. No seed, no milk, no folds, none of it.
Folds.
I have like a list of like ick words in my brain, and the moment I see it, I'm like, ooh, sorry book, you just lost a star.
I feel like sometimes it's just like really like my face is just like as I'm reading it, but then also sometimes there's words that are used that just make me laugh like out loud.
Yeah.
Like scepter. Why would you do that? Why would you, like, are you Sailor Moon?
I don't know that I would necessarily describe it as like a super spicy book. There's lots of like tension. There's not a lot of like actual sex scenes.
No, definitely not. And they're not excessive.
And they're not excessive. But I thought it was very good. And also just like, I love how they like talk about it too. Like I love the day after they like have their moment in the rainstorm, which was like
the best.
So good. And then they see each other the next day and he's like, well, if it isn't the person who isn't stalking me, and she's like, if it isn't the man who didn't ravish me in a rainstorm. I like laughed out loud. I love that so much.
I feel like their banter is like next level. It's very, very good.
Yes.
The whole book.
I was like, I wish I had this quick wit that I could just like always have a comeback. That's not just like your mom.
I feel like sometimes this is kind of like the way that she responds to him and how he responds to her, and it's so fast.
Yeah.
Reminds me a bit of how I imagine I'd like to respond in my head hours after a situation has happened. I go, wow, I wish I would have said this. Just like intelligent banter, like very, very like fun and like.
They clearly read more intelligent books than I do.
Obviously.
I love when people are like, you're a reader, you must be so smart. And I'm like, you don't know what I'm reading.
I wouldn't say I exclusively read like rom-coms.
No, me neither.
Yeah. So it's
unless
it's
I'm really
nice.
sad, then I read rom-com.
And then you're like, this is what I need in my life.
Like in this book, everyone is kind of like living out a particular trope. So I asked you to think about what trope you think you are.
I don't know. Like I am fortunate that I am married to my best friend. Yeah. So I would say like friends to lovers.
Yeah, and you were friends. You were friends getting married. You guys were like actually best friends before you were dating. And stuff.
So it like I would say is a friends to lovers trope, and I mean you had a really similar situation like that too. I also like character wise, I think I'm probably like reading this book. I was like Randy is Nora and I am Libby.
I also had this exact thought, especially because you texted me being like, Randy, can we go on quirky small town adventure? My immediate thought was like, why? It's like, this is why like we are these two characters. I think my trope would be the very blunt, not having any of your BS, like, best friend.
Yeah.
That's my trope.
Yeah.
How many times a day do I send you...
Stop it. Get some help.
Yeah, the very, like, sarcastic, like, deadpan best friend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Do you
would
think
be
that do you think that my assessment of being the sunshiny type is, like, accurate?
I think so. You're so optimistic, and every time I'm like, oh my gosh, everything is crashing and burning, you're like, maybe it's not. Like, it seems to me like it perhaps is.
Being optimistic is nice.
I'm not saying it's not nice, I can't relate. All right, so I think we decided at the end of every video, we're going to do two things. So first thing, we're going to rate the book.
Yes.
What better way to rank anything
Yes.
than a tier ranking?
Yeah.
So we've created a tier ranking. So here's what we have written down as
Yes.
a category. Top category, top tier, is the Six of Crows bathroom scene. I
Yes.
guess it's actually technically the Crooked Kingdom bathroom scene.
It is, in my opinion, and our opinion, the pinnacle of, like, I was there.
Yeah.
I was reading it. I was like, I am sitting in the corner of this bathroom experiencing this beautiful tension.
Yeah.
Six of Crows duology bathroom scene is what we will compare
That's the height.
everything to.
The
That's
height of literature.
Height of literature.
Making me feel like I personally am touch-starved is the height of literature.
For real.
Next is...
What can I say? It's a great piece of art.
It's still really great. I'll have almost no complaints. Like, I will recommend this book. I'll reread this book. I'll probably buy this book because I don't buy books unless I've already read them. Thanks,
Yeah,
library.
This girl has self-control. I'll buy anything.
The problem is I read too much.
I'm level 7 susceptible. Yeah.
Number 3 is Womp Womp, which is just... It, like, had potential, and it fell short in places. It's still, like, I might enjoy it. I feel like there's a lot of books that I rate a 3 that I've enjoyed that I just know are maybe not, like, a great book.
I think a good example of a 3 book that probably both of us are on the same page for was The Selection.
Yeah.
We were like, this was fine. It had a potential to be really excellent.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like,
Womp Womp.
wah, wah.
Womp Womp. Number 2 is That's a Book. It's a book. We read it, and those are all our thoughts.
I personally like our one the best, I think.
Yeah.
And it is just, I have questions. Mainly, why?
Why?
Why did you write this? Why did you waste the paper? Why are you an author for a living?
Why?
Why?
Are you rating book lovers of 1?
No. Never. This whole book was the Six of Crows bathroom scene.
Yeah, I agree.
It's the... Yeah.
I'd like maybe want to read more rom-coms, but the problem is that I've read 1 and a bit rom-coms since I finished Book Lovers, and
they don't suck up.
To be the rom-com that follows this book.
I've read probably a decent amount of rom-coms in my reading life-ish, right? This is probably my favorite. Love Hypothesis is also
I was
right
going to
up
say,
there.
it's really impressive to me that it dethroned Love Hypothesis
Which
for
was
me.
like, that was my top one for a long time. I'm always looking for more recommendations of like this tier level rom-com.
Tell us your rom-coms.
Tell us your rom-coms. Another thing that we were going to do at the end of each video, because we're both big music people, is to pick a song that goes with each book that we read. Yeah. So this is hard. You said you changed your mind. Like,
I did
today.
Yeah.
And I picked a song like close to the end of the book, and I was like, yeah, I think this to me fits, but who knows? I'm like kind of nervous.
So the song I chose is called Blind. It's by Role Model. I'm going to read you some of the lyrics.
Yeah.
She's got the gold hoops, Prada fit, and I'm in love with all of it. Ex-boy didn't get the picture, cut him out. You make everyone look like they aren't anyone. You're a little like me, same type. Cancels every date night, stays home, never leaves. Haven't felt a thing this year, I'm only trying to be sincere. I've never seen something quite like you.
Wow, I love that. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Do you want to share what your other ones were too, just for the purposes of knowing?
I Almost Do by Taylor Swift. Okay, my goal with this was not to recommend a Taylor Swift song every single book because
she's a Swiftie.
I did Bloodsport by Rayleigh Ritchie. That was initially my first pick. And I also, because it came out yesterday, Love of My Life by Harry Styles was in there.
Mine is definitely more like mainstream, but the song I chose was The Only Exception by Paramore. You know, different sort of side of things, but it's kind of like, you know, when I was younger, I saw my daddy cry, Curse at the Wind. He broke his own heart as I watched as he tried to reassemble it. It's very like kind of like family trauma that has like created this like coldness in her. Charlie was like her safe place, her person that she could kind of like let her guard down with.
Yeah.
So I really thought, I was like, oh, this song really fits
Yeah,
in my
that does
mind.
really
But I
fit.
was like, Randy is such a Paramore like fan. She's gonna pick the same damn song. But
No. I didn't even think of
was
that
my
one.
pick.
Great work.
Yeah.
What are you reading next? Not for this channel,
Ooh.
just like what is on your reading
Next on my
docket.
agenda, I'm gonna read Hawthorne Legacy next. So long time ago, yes, you've read it already. Yeah, I'm actually very excited to start it. I loved Inheritance Games. Just a delicious, like fast, like clever read. And then I also have Heartstopper if I'm feeling kind of like graphic novel-y.
Nice.
What about you?
I'm halfway through the Lost Hero from the Heroes of Olympus series. I was a huge Percy Jackson kid and then somehow missed that there's this whole other series that are like connected. So I've been like living my best life.
Yeah, so we're like always reading. So we're gonna, I guess, be here to have honest conversations about books and talk about what we liked and what we didn't like. I really look forward actually to reading a book that I don't like and getting to scream about it on the same couch.
Yes.
I think will be really nice.
That's like our number one talent, to scream about books we don't like.
We love this book.
Yeah.
You should read it. What else do people do at the end of YouTube videos? Share this, like it, subscribe. I don't know. What do people say?
Okay, bye.
Bye.